Hello, hello, everybody. This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two Girls, One Ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne. I am Sabrina.
Hello.
And I did really want to wear the hotel robe, but let me just try it on for you real quick.
Yeah, give it a whirl.
Fashion
This is
show.
great.
Fashion show.
You are the most fashionable person I know. And you also explore... Oh, we're getting a booty shake. Wow, what a perk. Didn't know we were getting that too. You're wearing leather pants. You're wearing a cool graphic tank top.
It looks like I'm getting my hair done.
Is this a black robe? Yeah, it's like silky and black. This is not what I thought the hotel robe would look like. It's kind of
Right.
witchy.
It is kind of witchy. Okay, I'm going with it.
Okay, great. Well, I'm wearing 2 pieces of clothing that are now 2 out of like 5 pieces of clothing that fit me. So I'm wearing my Cryptid Beans sweatshirt from our Creeps and Crimes episode that we did over with them
I
a
love
couple
that
years ago.
sweatshirt so much.
So
and I love the
comfy.
Cryptid Bean. Did you ever get new overalls from Hatch that I got you?
No, because you know what? I actually did end up fitting in them,
Oh, you did?
but now I don't. So I did a few weeks ago. And now I'm just like, I mean, I do fit in them, but like it would really stretch them. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I think that this is going to be something where it's more of like a postpartum. I get to wear my overalls.
They're going to be so cute. Can't wait to see them.
Yes. Thanks for those. They're very cute.
By the way, this is an Encounters episode. And so if you have sent us a email about a haunting that you have experienced or your haunted life or weird things that happened to you, well, guess what? We will read them back to you. So if you haven't sent it yet, please do. These are some of our favorite episodes because while reading can be difficult, it is so enjoyable to hear your stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to start, Corinne.
I was hoping you would so I can sip my coffee and listen to ghost stories.
This subject line, it came into the inbox on Wednesday, and I was like, what?
I love that because I feel like we pick out stories sometimes kind of far-ish in advance. And it's always great when something comes in and we're like, we have to just read this immediately.
Yeah, moving things around, shuffling it around. This is from our listener, Evie. And the subject line, Corinne, hold on to your pregnant boobies. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I am apparently related to a Menanangal.
What the fuck? I didn't even know that was possible.
Right?
Well, I guess it's technically like humans turned into these creatures, but
Right.
I never thought about it.
And they like steal babies out of people's like belly buttons.
Yeah. Oh, don't touch my belly button. Keep your upper torso to yourself, Menanangal.
Keep your lower torso attached, please.
Yeah, I'm not trying to see those intestines.
You know, sometimes we get emails where like the subject line is truly clickbait, which totally fine. Love that for all of you.
Works.
If that's what you want to do. It
we
works.
click it.
This is not that though. Okay.
Wow.
Hello, ghostesses.
Okay. Hello.
I hope I spelled that correctly. Hello, Sven. Hello, Leia, and soon to be creepy baby / kid. I'm starting off this email to say thank you for the great work that you've done and for being such kind and lovely people that whenever I have a bad day, I just listen to your podcast and just enjoy the spoopiness and feel like I'm with my friends talking about the spoopiness of the world and be spoopy together. Spooky girls.
Well, spooky girls. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Why we like doing this podcast because
I love
it's
it.
all of your stories and your suggested topics and everything. And so it does feel like we're beyond just you and me, Sabrina. It does feel like we're all hanging out, just trying
Literally.
to
That's
step
what we're
away
doing.
from it all.
That's what you just said you wanted to do. Just sit back, drink your coffee, and listen to ghost stories.
Yeah, exactly.
So content warning, I am realizing now how gruesome some of my descriptions will be. I am so sorry, Corinne, but be forewarned that if you do want to read on, it involves pregnant women and their unborn babies. So trigger warning.
I can handle it. Thank you for the trigger warning.
My name is Evie. I have renamed myself, but I am from the Philippines. And from the title, yes, apparently I am related to a Manananggal. And if you do not know what a Manananggal is, this is like me talking. Hi, Sabrina here. We did a whole episode about them because when we did our very first Moment House, Two Girls, One Ghost, like the summer camp one, what was it called? Camp TGOG?
Yeah.
We asked all of our listeners if they could date any cryptid, what would they date? And one of our listeners introduced us to the Manananggal. And so then I researched and did an entire episode on them. I don't remember what episode it was, but basically it's a creature from the Philippines, a cryptid from the Philippines that can disconnect from its lower body and go into people's homes and suck out. They kill people, they drain them of their blood, and sometimes they take their children, unborn babies.
And they have extremely long tongues and their intestines hang out the bottom part of their split torso.
Do your spleen hang low? Do it wobble to and fro?
Can you tie it in a knot? Can you
Can
tie
you
it
suck
in a
out all
knot?
the blood? Can you steal all the children? Can you steal them? Okay.
Let's create our own book of nursery rhymes.
That would be horrifying, and I'm so down. Okay,
As
so
if they're not dark enough already.
that's just a little bit of context from the Manananggal, but this is back to Evie's story. So apparently I'm related to a Manananggal. My grandmother, to my sperm donor's side to be specific, is apparently a Manananggal. So grandmother on her biological father's side.
Donors
Yeah.
side, yes.
Well, I've always kind of known I was related to one ever since I was a kid because my mom always told us, especially me, that we weren't allowed to go to the province, specifically my sperm donor's hometown, because it could be passed down to us. In the Philippines, stories vary as of what a Manananggal really is, but at least the version I know, and if my family is to be believed, is that a woman in the family who was unfortunately the one passed to from another Manananggal in the family. Honestly, missed opportunity to pass it on to males. My sperm donor would have been a great candidate. But basically, when it gets passed down, gets detached from their lower half, they then sprout wings. I'm not really sure if it sprouts or do they just hide their wings during the daytime or if it just magically poof, they're there. But they then proceed to hunt sleeping pregnant ladies and perch from the roof, extend their elongated straw-like tongues, slither it past the shingles or the ceiling of the house, and suck the babies out of their bellies. And in some cases, they don't discriminate and they just eat anyone who has a liver. Sometimes I wonder if they can just sense if the person is healthy and not eat from people who have liver problems or if they don't care. Either way, it is gruesome.
Yeah, they're like little killer whales of the paranormal world,
Yes.
targeting the livers.
I don't really know if what I've been told is at all accurate because my version has been told through word of mouth and stories can get distorted at times, but this was the version all of my uncles and aunties told me. There's also this funny thing Filipinos call mistresses, homewreckers. They call them aswang, which is also another term for manananggals. I find it funny because my sperm donor has a lot of aswangs and he's also related to one, which all makes so much sense now, but I digress.
I mean, I would rather be called an asswing. I feel like that just sounds nicer.
I feel like I'm saying that word wrong. Is it aswang? Aswang?
Aswang?
Aswang?
Aswang?
ASWANG? I do
don't
love
know.
that we're learning the lingo from the Philippines right now.
And now, if we go to the Philippines and someone says that to us, we know what it means. You know?
We're manananggals.
Yeah. Or they don't trust us with our flirtatious, juicy lips and our boobies that hang so low and wobble to and fro.
From the stories that my mom told me, the trait of being a manananggal is passed down to the youngest unmarried daughter in the family when the current manananggal dies. I don't really understand how it works or if it's really the way, but that's what my family tells me and what my mom told me. Apparently, it's hereditary, and if you're lucky enough to be a woman, related to one, unmarried, or happen to be around the area, it can be passed down to you, and you'll be the one when randomly at night you get wings split in half every night and suck the life out of people.
Dang.
I think I found out when I was 12 years old. I've always been a creepy kid, so I wasn't really bothered when they talked to me about the spooky things. And plus, my family's a little bit spoopy. Apparently, more spoopy on my sperm donor's side, and I'm going to be referring to my sperm donor as SD as we continue to go on in my story, because sperm donor is just too wordy. So,
also, what a wild thing to be told. Like, one night you might sprout wings and become a manananggal.
right.
It's so different than all of us waiting in our beds being like, maybe on my 13th birthday, I'll become a witch. Maybe I'll get a letter to Hogwarts. It's like, is it
No.
exciting or is it full of fear? What do you feel?
I think
This
it's
is your prediction.
fear. I think fear. I don't think you
Yeah.
want this, especially the way that I'm understanding Evie's referrals to SD.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin is the only one I haven't disowned from my SD's side. He was over with his girlfriend and we were catching up. And I don't remember how it got to the topic, but he brought up his experience with living with my grandmother from my SD's side in the province. Apparently, the whole neighborhood has always suspected that she was a manananggal. I mean, sure, I can't really blame them because I've been told by everyone that she was a nasty, nasty lady, to the point of being, sadly, an abusive parent, which explains my SD, and has always been mean and nasty. But they also have eyewitness accounts to back up their claims. Apparently, she would disappear at night, only to reappear the next day, wandering the street at the crack of dawn, climbing up to the loft on all fours, like
Excuse
crawling.
me? Was she still like half of a manananggal at that point? I'm so curious if she was confused and disoriented and like trying to scramble home, or if she was kind
Right.
of morphing back into her human figure.
I wonder if you reconnect with your legs if it takes some time for them to like work again.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point.
Apparently, she would casually eat baby chicks and not the
Mm,
balut, which is a Philippine delicacy, which is like baby chicks still in the egg. But no, she would
yes.
eat the ones that were already walking about and chirping. Those kinds of baby chicks.
Mm,
I don't remember what else he told me but what she does since it's been a long time now, but these are the traits that really stood out to me and have stuck with me. Ever since then, my mom never wanted us to go, even on vacation, to that province. Because you never know, it might be me, since I was the youngest unmarried lady in our family during that time, to which I didn't really mind because I didn't care to see or talk to that side of the family.
So if you avoid the area, you might be able to avoid the
Yeah, I think you have to be near.
curse, basically.
Mhm.
Okay.
Of course, there's other explanations that could explain her behavior. Maybe she has psychological or mental health issues that weren't diagnosed, but I can't blame them for thinking the worst of this woman, mainly because she was a really, really bad person. And even if she was ill, there is no excuse for abuse because her abuse led to my sperm donor abusing us, which is why I have no sympathy, which leads me to say that it is totally okay for you to cut off toxic people from your life, even if they're your family.
Preach.
My grandmother on my sperm donor side passed on a few years ago now, and it was no surprise that no one went home to help her out. It was actually my uncle from my mom's side who arranged her funeral. It was either they too believe on what the rumors say and were afraid of being the next flying girl at night of the neighborhood, or they just didn't care about her anymore. None of her children even went home to arrange her funeral, which says a lot.
That does say a lot.
I sometimes think about, what if it is really true, who's the next one? Do I know her? Or maybe she had no one to pass it down to? I've never been back to the province since I was a little girl, and quite frankly, I'm scared of going because of these stories. I would have to eventually since my mom's ashes are buried there. She passed back in 2019 and was buried there as per her wishes since it's much easier and cheaper to bring ashes back to that province instead of a big casket. Due to the lack of funds, she had expensive medical bills. We weren't able to go there when she was buried, but I'm always grateful to my uncle for stepping in, helping us out during those rough times. As for me, no, I'm pretty sure it was not passed down to me, but it makes sense why I'm such a spoopy girly to begin with. I also have an experience with the Manananggal in my city.
Ooh.
It's a very densely populated one, which makes me wonder how she wasn't seen. But back when my sister was pregnant with her second kid and I was still in high school, my mom, who also believes in all things spoopy, made these small black pouches filled with Manananggal repellent. I'm not really sure what's inside it, but she would hang it on all the windows and doors of the room my sister and I shared during that time. We had bunk beds, and my sister had the lower bunk. I had the higher bunk since she was heavily pregnant, and it was much easier for her to be on the lower bunk. Could you imagine making a pregnant lady climb up to the top bunk?
Especially when they pee 1,000 times a night.
Oh, gosh.
No, I could not.
So the bunk bed was pushed against the wall with one of the big windows. So have one part of the window for each bunk bed. It was midnight. She was asleep with her oldest son, and I was next to them on the ground, collaging my heart out for my English portfolio project. And I distinctly remember it was quiet. All the windows were shut. The TV was off. And I had my music player on when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just heard a woman's laugh. Not the cute feminine ones, but the ones you hear from the villains or witches in the shows with the high-pitched.
It's kind of like what I just did.
It is.
You got my witch cackle going with that collaging your heart out.
I was surprised at first because I was like, what the fuck? The TV's off. I don't have any music downloaded with a woman laughing in it. And then it sunk in. The laugh came from the window that was against the beds. Of course, I immediately looked at the window and I didn't see anything, but I heard the distinct sounds of heavy wings flapping away. That time, I was understandably freaked out, but not freaked out enough to go to bed or even tell my mother to wake up my sister. No, I had more important things to do, like collaging that portfolio that needed to be done by the morning because my lazy ass was lazy. So maybe the repellent worked and stopped the Manananggal from touching my sister, or she saw that I was still awake or sensed that we were, I don't know. Maybe it was something outside cackling their heart out, but I don't know. How do you explain the wing flapping? Maybe a bird, but it sounded too heavy to be a bird. A big bird? Or it could just be my sleep-deprived, angsty teen brain with an overactive imagination. Either way, it was scary. Thank you guys so much for reading my story. I had an urge to type it down and just did. Thank you for being the gorgeous, wonderful, extraordinary ladies that you are, creating this wonderful podcast and welcoming us spoopy-minded people to your world. You guys are the best. If not here in this life, I hope to see you on the other side. Much love, Evie.
Evie, oh my gosh. I feel for Evie because having that as like your backstory does make any other paranormal experience feel scarier because it's like, is this the moment? Is this a sign? Is this a
Right.
warning that I'm about to be the Manananggal? And to have been in the Philippines, which is one of the spookiest places on earth,
Right.
riddled with ghosts. That place is.
It's just so ominous.
Man.
Like some people look forward to like inheriting money from their grandparents or inheriting, that jewelry they really liked
Yeah.
or some piece of furniture. No, Evie's like, I might inherit this like curse that turns me into a blood-sucking, vicious, legless creature that has to steal livers from
Right.
people in the middle of the night.
It's also kind of unfair that it's like, oh, the youngest unmarried daughter or whatever. Because then it's just trying to encourage people to get married. It's trying to like instill some fear and push people to partner up. And maybe that's not right for certain people.
I do think when we talk, and I might be butchering this, but I'm pretty sure when we did research on this, when I was looking back at like what was happening in society when the Manananggals were first dated back to and where the origin seemed to come from, there was a lot of reference to like the fear and the power of an unmarried woman and like the independence of women.
Sexual liberation.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, to be a woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Evie, I sure hope that never happens to you. But it is scary when things that feel like they could just be legend start to have some examples within the family line where you're like, is this lore or is this real?
I know. What is this?
That's a story that you could have given me 1,000 guesses and I never would have thought we would have received an email like that.
I know. I was so stoked. I mean, that's like something that's so
stoked.
cool about this podcast is that we have just been getting emails for 7 years now almost. And we are continuously surprised by them. Like you all are keeping us guessing. Like we don't know what you know. So tell us what you know and what you've seen.
Right. We're learning so much still.
Oh, every day.
Okay, well, this is going to be a little different, but this is called Haunted Engagement Ring.
Oh.
Hello, beautiful ladies. I recently discovered your channel and wanted to share one of my paranormal and most frightening experiences. Okay. This story is about my haunted engagement ring, and yes, I'm being for real. So, in June of 2023, I met my now ex-fiance, we will call him John, and I fell madly in love with him, and we got engaged in September. Yeah, we moved very fast. He was twice my age. I'm 18 and he's 32. And he was from the Middle East. And this is important due to the spirits that inhabit the Middle East called jinn. Yes, we've heard about the jinn. Mm-hmm. There's that one person that comes on Campfire Stories that has so many stories about the jinn. Do you remember her?
Is it the jinn or the duendes?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of her duendes. Yeah, you're right.
But my dad has experienced the jinn.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay. So my ex-fiance, he started to become very abusive and controlling and isolating me from all of my friends and my family. And there was a lot of other abuse as well.
True.
In November of 2023, I left him and finally ended it for good, and I lived with my parents. I had left all of my things behind with him and the ring as well. After 2 cop calls and threatening to sue him, he finally gave me back almost all of my belongings, including the ring. I didn't want the ring. He'd given it back just to torment me, I feel like. But I told myself, I could sell it for a few $100. I hadn't talked to John since he called me in late December, and I quickly told him to never contact me again. But this month, around a week ago, he tried to follow me on TikTok and was stalking my account. Ugh. This is important because that night I woke up at about 3:30 a.m. and I felt like I was being watched. My new boyfriend was on FaceTime with me, and I told him that I was really scared, but he comforted me and I fell back to sleep, and then I turned my lights on. I woke up because I heard something moving by my desk, where I put my engagement ring. My room was pitch black and I hadn't turned my lights off. I was immediately alarmed. I felt my whole body freeze. I couldn't speak, and it was really hard to breathe. I was experiencing sleep paralysis. I tried to tell my boyfriend, but I was just stuck. I felt a being move from the desk area, and then I heard footsteps. Oh. I finally snapped out of it, but saw over where the engagement ring was a smoky figure. I was feeling brave, I guess, because I walked straight up to it and I told it that it has no place here and it has to leave.
Snaps, baby.
I know. And the smoke went away. Usually jinn are smoke figures. I went back to bed, and when I woke up the next day, I found scratches all over my stomach and my chest. And I do tend to bite my nails, but there's no way that these scratches were from me. I didn't quite understand what had happened. I hadn't yet pieced the ring being cursed together yet. And I remember going to see my boyfriend's parents and telling them about the incident, and they told me that I needed to get rid of the ring and all of the items attached to John. When his mother was praying over me, I felt the pain of when I had been abused. And she said, "All evil must leave, anything that seeks to harm her." I was hesitant to sell the ring until that night when I went to bed and I felt like I was being watched. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would look over to that corner where the ring was as if something was there again. But I wasn't scared. I was just alarmed. I went to sleep with my boyfriend on the phone again, and I kept waking up and walking around my room, and things would be moved, but I would just brush it off. I kept waking up and my Christmas lights would be on, and so I would turn them off. But then I would wake up and then the big light would be on, and I didn't turn that light on. And then the next day, I had had enough, and I started thinking about selling the ring to the pawn shop. But a voice kept telling me, throw it in the river.
Yeah.
The river was a place John would take me. So I told my boyfriend to take me to the river. On the way to the river, we almost wrecked 3 times.
What?
We finally got to the river, and I looked at the ring and I said, "Return to sender." And then I threw it in the river. Ever since then, everything has calmed down. I feel emotionally better. I feel less depressed. It was like that ring was sucking all of the life out of me. I believe it was cursed with Jinn because of his homeland, and it transferred to me because that ring was the one connection I had to him. It started getting worse because John tried to reach out to me, and I had let him get into my head. What do you guys think? Stay spooky. Sarah.
Sarah, 1, I'm so sorry you went through this. 2, good fucking
Yeah.
riddance to John.
I know.
Goodbye.
Return to sender, bitch.
Return to sender. It sounds like this thing's like a freaking Horcrux. Like it doesn't want to be destroyed.
It does feel like that. It's so weird because the voice too in Sarah's head saying, "Throw it in the river." I had thought initially when I first read it that was something like, I feel like we reference Greg and Dana Newkirk constantly, but that's nothing new. We've done that for years. But they have some examples of some objects that have come into their possession where the object is seemingly evil and has been used by the wrong people for its negative energy, but really it just wants to get back to where it feels it belongs. So I was like, is the object trying to get back to the river? Like, had he taken it from the river or something? Like, is it trying to get back to the river and then it will be at peace? But that doesn't feel accurate because of how much resistance and like all the obstacles thrown at them on the way to get to the river. It feels like it was some guide that was like, throw it in the river, don't let anyone else get this ring.
Yeah, to me, it felt like a guardian of some kind being like, don't put this into, like, because if you put it in a pawn shop, yeah, maybe you get a couple $100, but like it could be passed on to someone else. And if there is like this really negative attachment to it, then it's being passed on. So
yeah,
good riddance to the river, bottom of the river, never to see daylight or humans ever again.
No, hopefully not.
Okay, well, some humans are scary.
Many
or
of
you
them.
think they're humans and they're not.
Uh-oh.
This is from our listener, Kim, and it's called Mom 2.0 and Other Stuff. Hello, Ghostesses.
Hello.
I wanted to share some weird coincidences since I started binging TGOG this past November, and this was sent in January of 2021. So a little bit of backstory. In our family, we have myself, my mom, my brother, and a family friend, Paul, who's living in our house with us. So we all live in the same home. Over the years, we've rotated rooms, fussing over the largest closet space. Paul has lived with us on 3 separate occasions, and he usually just gets whatever room is left. We refer to the extra room as Paul's room, whether he's there or not. And as of today, Paul has stayed in 3 of the 4 bedrooms. This past November, and at his wit's end, Paul shared that he had been seeing a shadow figure, always standing at the foot of his bed, always at the same time, 2 to 3 a.m.
Is this why he kept trying to sleep in other rooms? He was just like rotating around.
I don't think it matters where Paul sleeps, to be honest.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
I suggested maybe it's a dream, and his response was 2 to 3 times a week, and it wakes him up. He said, I have to verbally yell and kick at it to have it go away, and sometimes I end up kicking the wall. He said, I thought you guys could hear me in the middle of the night. None of us ever heard a peep. Once he shared the news, the visits actually stopped, but he started to have dreams. Actual dreams. Same thing. Unrecognizable female presence just staring. Curtains would also sway side to side when the windows were shut. Paul said it felt like a female energy, and I'm not sure how he feels this, because he's not the third eye open type of guy. So I asked, well, when did all of this start, Paul? Paul's response was, since I moved back in this last time. I had never experienced this in the other rooms. Oh, so it's this one specific room.
Interesting.
Both my mom and brother had stayed in this one room at some point, and they had no exciting stories. So then this past November, we hired a caregiver from my mom because she was showing early signs of dementia and just needs some assistance in cooking and whatnot. So about a month in, the caregiver texted my sister and I. My sister doesn't live with us, but we get a text from the caregiver that says, hey, I don't want to freak you guys out, but I was sweeping in the hallway and I heard someone whisper in my ear. About a week later, I was able to get off work early and came home. The caregiver was still on her shift, so we got to chatting for a bit, and of course, she brought up the whisper and goes, I couldn't understand the whisper because it seemed like it was in another language, but it was definitely a woman.
Oh. Also, what a brave caregiver that she's literally hearing something in another language whispering to her, and she's like, not a huge deal, but just want to pass this along. I'm going to continue with my job and continue to show up every day.
Right. But also good on her to like say something, because I feel like a lot of times it's like, I'm just not going to say anything.
Right. And then if she's experiencing that, it does make me wonder. I just feel for this person's mom, because I feel like when people have dementia or people are just in a different mental space that they don't have as many guards up, like what could be targeting them? What could they be experiencing?
I do hope, for the most part, it seems like her mom was not experiencing things because they had stayed in the same room Paul was seeing everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I immediately thought about Paul's feeling of a female energy and wondered if there was a correlation. I truly felt nauseated from the fear. I hadn't mentioned Paul's story to the caregiver because I didn't want her to quit, and also retelling the story out loud in the actual house seemed a lot scarier.
Mm-hmm.
So then the caregiver continues, casually. To be honest, I felt something when I first walked in on the very first day. I think it's just curious about who I am and what I'm doing in the house, but I do think it's protecting your mom. Trying to hide my fear and playing it cool, I said, oh, okay, so like a guardian?
Yeah.
That's good. And then, curiously, I asked, do you have these experiences often? Like, do you have a third eye? And the caregiver goes, no, not since I was a kid. I'm weaker now. I thought weaker was an interesting word, but I left it at that. So now, let's jump to December. I woke up to someone calling my name. Kim Lang. I woke up, alert. I thought I had slept in. Oh my gosh, shoot, it's the caregiver. She's here. I checked my phone, but it's 5 a.m. The caregiver doesn't get there until 8 a.m. And I actually realized I gave her the day off. So is it my mom? I pulled up the security app on my phone and saw no signs of movement. Everyone was still asleep, and we had installed cameras indoors once my mom was diagnosed with dementia to try to make sure we could keep an eye on her.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, okay, what's the next logical thing? Is it a dream? But there were no visuals or pictures or images in my head. Later in the day, after giving it some thought, I realized I haven't gone by my full name, Kim Lang, in a very long time. So whoever would have called out for me had to have known me from forever ago. I thought it was strange that these events started happening while I discovered Two Girls, One Ghost. I had been reading psychic medium Kim Russo's and Dr. Brian Weiss's books. They don't believe in coincidences, which leads me to believe that yes, Two Girls, One Ghost is most definitely haunted. In the best way, of course.
Or you're just experiencing yourself being a little bit more open to the paranormal by choosing to listen to ghost stories. So,
which happens to a lot of our listeners.
I'm deflecting the blame.
Okay, here's the story I originally started this email for. It's short, but it was around 1945 in the motherland of Cambodia, and my grandmother was pregnant and gave birth to a stillborn. In her pain and agony, she wailed, "Come back to me, please come back to me," and proceeded to mark the baby with chewing tobacco. Cambodians chewing tobacco is not what we know of it to be here on this side of the pond. It's like a pink pasty thing wrapped in a leaf before inserted between the gum and cheek. Some time passed and my grandma was pregnant again. This time she gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl, my mom. On one side of my mom's cheek, right next to her ear, is a pink birthmark. It's the size of a thumb, as if someone would smear something on her. I'm not sure why my grandma did what she did. I think she had acted in grief. Our culture does believe in ghosts, reincarnation, and past lives, but my mother's birthmark looks exactly like the chewing tobacco that she put on her stillborn baby's face. It's in the exact same spot.
Oh my gosh.
It's the same color. And Kim sent us a picture.
I mean, this is proof. I don't need any more information. That is so wild.
Yeah.
Birthmarks are so fascinating. I feel like we talked about it a lot in the beginning of our podcast life, the first couple of years. And then I feel like we've we haven't talked about it too much, but it does come up sometimes with reincarnation stories and just
Yeah.
people dying and coming back. And like there's a special birthmark that indicates something about their previous life or how they died.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is so interesting. And it does make me want to retry the Brian Weiss
I know.
past life regression hypnosis on YouTube that you can take. Which, by the way, let me just say really quickly, if anyone does that, I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. You can block ads
Yeah, it's smart.
from playing, and you should do that if you're ever doing anything meditative on YouTube, because otherwise it's scary.
Ads completely ruin the meditation.
Yeah, and you're in it, and then all of a sudden a voice way too loud is like, Comcast of Massachusetts, and you're like, fuck.
I want to like do this for our like a Patreon episode or something like that, where we both sit and do the meditation.
It's kind of long. It's like, I think it's like 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, is it just gonna be us like with our eyes closed, people just watching us sleep, basically?
Well, maybe we could choose a time where we're like, okay, everyone who wants to do it, let's all do it. We're going to start at
that's a
this
good
time.
idea.
And then in 45 minutes from now, we're going to come back
Debrief?
and go live and talk about,
Oh, that's
debrief
a fun idea.
what we did so that no one has to stare at us looking like this. I would also be so distracted. I wouldn't be able to get into it if I knew I was on camera doing it.
Did I tell you? Okay, so last night ever since you told me the don't yuck someone's yum, I've been obsessed with it, and I've been like telling people about it because even though everyone else apparently already knows it, but
I was like, wait, I didn't create this. This has been around.
I know, but I'm like a little kid who like learned something and wants to share it with everyone, you know?
I'm glad it resonated with you.
It really did, but last night I was talking about it. I was like, you know what I just heard? I heard this phrase, don't yuck somebody's yum, and I'm obsessed with it. And both people who I said it to were like, that's so icky and so gross. And I was like, why are you yucking my yum?
They literally did exactly the opposite of what they should be doing in that moment.
Apparently that phrase is polarizing and it gives people the ick.
Yeah. Well, I first learned it in my human sexuality class because we were learning
that
about
long ago.
Yeah, we had a few lessons on like kinks and stuff. God, it was such a good class. We literally watched porn in class, but it was so good. It was such a good class. But yeah, we learned it in that class because it was just about human behavior when it comes to sexuality and just exploring different fantasies and don't yuck someone else's yum, because some of them can be a result of, like different life events. And then others can be an interest because it's something healing, even though someone else might find it weird and uncomfortable. So don't yuck someone else's yum.
Anyway.
There are exceptions to that. Of course.
Like pedophilia, for example.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes.
And necrophilia. And sex with animals. How about all of those things?
Yeah, bestiality. It's not a phrase that's like a concrete piece of advice. It's use at your own discretion, but good to just like remember to be a little bit more open-minded when interacting with other people.
It's the yucks that don't harm other people that are yums.
And that people can consent into participating in.
Exactly. I'm so glad we had this clarifying conversation.
Just in case anyone didn't already assume those things, we're going to be pretty black and white about it right now.
You never know.
Get out of our podcast if you're experiencing that.
Get out. We're standing our ground. Return to sender. Go away.
Return to sender. I love that. Anytime we have a haunted object and we don't want it, return to sender as you dump it into the river.
Did you send me my haunted pendulum yet?
No, it's literally on my... Oh, well, here's my excuse as to why.
You're pregnant?
Is because that is one excuse. But also, at the time of us recording this episode, I still have to go to our Boston P.O. box and grab everything from the P.O. box that we're closing out. And then there's been a few things that people have said that they sent to our new active P.O. box, which is in Salem, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that there's a lot more stuff waiting for you. So I'm like, oh, let me just... Okay. I'll send it to you in a couple of weeks when I go and collect everything else.
I want it.
I'm trying to be fiscally responsible by not sending you multiple packages and just putting it all in one.
Fair.
Sending it once. This is called A Demon Almost Killed Me.
You saved this one for the end?
I did.
Fuck yeah.
I'm channeling you.
Did you see what I picked for my Encounters episode for my birthday?
No, did you? Are we doing demonic? Of course. What did I pick? I feel like I picked something
pets.
nice.
You picked something nice. You picked pets. I was like, okay, well, if you're doing that, then I'm going
Yeah.
hardcore.
Those are coming up soon. I gotta pluck some dangerous ones for you. Okay.
Yes.
A demon almost killed me. Hey, hi, howdy, hello.
Hello. What's up?
I've written a couple stories before, but this one is a big one. I've put off writing it for years, but here we go. And it will be long, but so beyond worth it. When I was about 10-ish, so like 4th grade, I lived in an amazing neighborhood with amazing friends. It was just me and my mom, and life was pretty good. My mom was never there as a child. She worked 2 jobs, so I was left alone all through the day. A latchkey kid.
Yes.
So she would put me on the bus in the mornings, but then I wouldn't see her until it was time for bed. One day, she came home and she announced that she bought a house.
Oh.
She opened her computer and she showed me pictures of the listing, and I remember being so excited about the move and about decorating my new room. That was until we took the first load of boxes in her Subaru that night. We walked in and I felt nothing but anger. And looking back, the anger was really for no reason. I was angry about leaving my friends, having to ride a new bus, and the stupid colors that the walls were painted. But it was too late. That weekend, my grandpa and my uncle came with a trailer and they moved the remaining of the big items into the house. It was the end of summer vacation, so I had to be home alone in the new house while my mom was at work. I was laying on her bed watching the Shania Twain music videos that I had saved to her laptop when all of a sudden her bedroom door slammed closed. I immediately freaked out, but I tried not to react, and I played the Christian music that my mom had saved. I had no friends in this new neighborhood, so I was stuck until 9 p.m. when my mom would eventually get home and enter the scary happening montage over the next couple of years. Cabinets would slam without warning. Our beds would shake during the night, so I started to sleep with my mom. Silverware and plates would fly across the kitchen, horrible night terrors and sleep paralysis. And one day we came home and all of our bras were hung on the ceiling fan.
What?
My friend said that I sat up in the middle of the night talking gibberish, and then we went to get breakfast the next morning, and she saw literal scratches on the roof of her car.
What?
My mom's computer went missing, and we found it under towels in a bathroom closet.
I feel like the ghost was for sure watching porn.
I was going to say with the bras on the ceiling fan, it does feel like a 16-year-old high school boy's prank.
Right. It's very like pervy ghost discovering sex.
I also have to say, so when they say their mom's computer went missing and they found it under towels in the bathroom cabinet, it just brought back a memory, which I'm sure I've talked about before, but it's still something that we've never figured out what happened. Brianna, one of my bridesmaids, Brianna, like my roommate throughout all of college and after college, she, in our house, Kalehio, that was super haunted, her computer went missing from her bed. I had been the last to use it. It was daytime. It was like 10 a.m. I used her computer. She was there. She had to go. So I closed her laptop, went and put it on her bed. And when I came back, or when all of us came back, like 4 hours later, she was like, "Where's my laptop?" And I was like, "It's on your bed." She was like, "No, it's not." And it wasn't on the kitchen table that I had used it on, which is like 5 feet away from where her bed was in her bedroom door. And we could not find it. And it was a very panicky moment. Like, did someone break in? Like, what the fuck is happening? She found it in her closet, zipped into a piece of luggage.
That's so weird.
And it was daytime.
It's so strange.
Yeah, we've never figured it out. And now, ladies, I bring to you the 2 main stories of the demon that actually tried to off me.
Oh, God.
As I mentioned in the beginning of this email, my mother was pretty neglectful. When she stopped working her second job, she started going to college online and would lock herself in the room to study. I still didn't see much of her and was left to do mainly all of the cooking and cleaning myself. One day, I was watching a cooking show where they were frying tortilla wraps on the stove, and I thought that it looked delicious, so I went to the kitchen to cook some up.
Oh.
I put the oil on the stove and I turned the burner to 4. I turned around and I finished rolling the filling in the tortillas, and then I looked at the stove and the burner was set to high, and I didn't want to burn them, so I turned it back down to 4. I turned around, I got a plate, I lined it with the paper towels so that I could put the taquitos on it after I fried them. And when I turned back around, after the literal 10 seconds of getting the plate, the burner was set to high again, and the oil was now on fire.
Jeez.
In panic, I grabbed the pan and I brought it to the sink and I turned on the water. Well, I don't know if you know anything about oil fires, but that is a top no-no. The flames grew in size and engulfed the entire kitchen sink, burning both of my thumbs in the process.
Oh
I
my
now have
gosh.
permanent damage to my right hand from this. As a kid, I didn't realize that this was paranormal, but a couple of years later, I figured it out. I was careful about not letting the burners get too high, and even if I had left it on high, how on earth would it have caught fire in less than 5 minutes? Water doesn't even heat that fast.
No. And oil has like a really high, I mean, it depends on the oils. They have different like burning temperatures, but like.
Right. The oil used for frying, like olive oil probably has like the lowest
Right.
boiling point.
Geez, that's to catch fire too. Gosh.
Side note, as I was writing this story, the fire alarm went off on my son's tablet in his show. Thanks for the PTSD, kid.
I'm glad it was on a show and not like
I know.
in the house.
But of course, it's the timing. It's like the universe
Yeah.
taunting you a little bit.
Rude.
And now the main story. Say a prayer and buckle up. At about the age of 16, I started to not look at my mom as the perfect parent. I started to see the neglect, and then I tried to speak out about it, and we would always get in fights. If you remember in the beginning of the story, I started sleeping in my mom's room. The hauntings were the worst at night, and so we used to sleep with our backs touching. And it didn't help, but it at least made you feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
After a mom, you are negative fight, I was angry and I went to go sleep in my own room. Big mistake.
Oh no.
I've had sleep paralysis many times before. It starts with a rush of white noise through your head, and then your entire body will get the pins and needles feeling. You know that feeling you get when your foot falls asleep from sitting on it too
Yep.
long? That feeling will cover your entire body,
hate
and you
that.
can't move. Usually, I could break myself out of it. You start by trying to twitch your muscles in your feet or your hands, and once you find you can twitch one, you twitch it until you can twitch bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually it will go from your big toe to more of your toes to your whole foot, and then you can finally break free. There was something different about this one. As I was trying to find a twitch, I noticed that my sleep mask wasn't on. I used it to cover my face so that I wouldn't see shadows in the house at night. And it must have fallen off, or maybe it was taken off.
It was taken off.
Because my eyes were open and I was staring at the ceiling. Then I saw it.
Mm-mm.
A face in the ceiling.
No.
A face of a skull, but more cow-like in build and eyes. So black.
And this is what you would love.
Oh, me and the bovines.
To be haunted by a cow.
Its eyes so black and so empty. It felt like they would suck me into another world.
Jeez.
And then I heard it. Not only was the thing looking at me, it was laughing at me. The most sinister and evil laugh, hysterical almost. And the face drew closer and closer. And I tried to find the twitch, something, anything to pull myself out of this dream. But I don't think I was dreaming at all. Because then its arms reached out around my neck. It squeezed, and so did my lungs. In real life, I could not breathe. Panic setting in, and I still couldn't move. The laughing grew louder, and I started to hear a high-pitched ring in my head, almost as loud as the laughing. Then it released its grip, and I gasped for air. The laughing grew more intense, and it squeezed me again, this time harder than before. I thought my neck was about to snap in half. My lungs were burning, and I swear I could taste blood. Then the ringing in my head started again, and it grew louder and louder, almost to the point of drowning out the laughing. I was panicking, trying with all my might to move, and then my vision started to be clouded with a red fog, and that's when I knew it was going to kill me, and it was almost there. God, if you're there, if you're real, God, I need you. I screamed in my head, praying and willing God to save me, and then I heard him speak. I love you, the most beautiful voice I could describe. Not masculine like you would think of Thor, but gentle and powerful. A voice so beautiful that I still cry every time I remember it.
Oh.
And as soon as the voice spoke, everything fell still. I know some people who listen to the podcast might not be religious, but I know that I heard God's voice in that moment. And for whatever reason, I guess he didn't want the demon killing me. So I must have some purpose out there after all. Stay spooky, ladies, and I will catch you on the other side. This is from Kay.
Kay, what the F? What the front? What happened after this?
I know, did it stop? Like, what about all the shadows that you've been seeing?
Right. And what about like things going missing? I mean, how long did you live in the house? Do you still live in this house? What's going on?
We have a lot of questions. We're glad you're okay, because clearly this is about your childhood and life growing up.
Yes.
And now you're older.
Right.
But holy shit. I mean, does it still plague you? Was this something of the house?
I mean, it definitely sounds like it was 100% something in the house. I'm curious how Kay's mom found the house, because it seemed like such like a surprise, I bought a home. We're moving in like tomorrow. That's kind of how it felt. But
Right.
I'm curious the origin of the house, because it sounds like this thing was there before, it predated their living there. And then clearly when Kay was fighting with their mom quite a bit, it intensified and became more powerful. And the second Kay was alone, the second Kay wasn't sleeping with her mom, it really, really came for them.
Oh, it's so awful. And to spend so much time alone in that house too and have so much fear.
No.
And it's not like, I mean, she was away from the neighborhood and the kids that she knew before. So it's not like she could be like, okay, well, I'm not going home until like 9 p.m. when my mom comes home. There was no one to run to. There was no one to distract you. No other families to be like, can I just stay here until dinner time at least or something?
Help. It's also just so sad because at first I was like, the bras and the computer, like, this is funny. Like, maybe it's like a ghost, truly, you know, prepubescent, just figuring out what their penis is, if that's what a ghost goes through. I don't know. But then
ghost puberty.
It truly evolved into something so malicious. Like, I have a hard time putting the two together, you know?
I know. It's so scary. It's so freaky. It's beyond night terrors. It truly, like the fact that Kay could taste the blood and like the ringing in the ears is not paranormal. That's your body dying.
Yeah.
As the life is being squeezed out of you. And then for it to also stop and then Kay be like, and like think it's over and then to go even harder and do it again. Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm so glad that nothing worse happened. I mean, it's pretty terrible, but that you're okay and that you were able to call upon God and have someone, a higher power come save you.
Right. And if Kay hadn't said anything, like I really do think Kay might have died.
I'm glad you didn't.
I mean, it already permanently injured Kay's hands with the oil, you know? Like she has
so scary too.
Evidence of it like physically trying to harm her already.
Yeah. Jeez.
And doing something so innocent, being like, wow, I love the Food Network. I'm going to make these taquitos myself. And like trying to do it, trying to learn something new, and then getting horribly burned in the process.
Corinne, I can't believe you picked such a horrifying story to end us on. My goodness, it's so unlike you.
Hey, well, your birthday's coming soon, so
that's definitely why you planned
to trickle it in.
Yeah, a little trickle.
Maybe I should have saved this one for your birthday, but we have plenty of other ones.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have any haunting tales, whether it may be positive, negative, scary, happy, sad, emotional, whatever it may be, even just strange and unusual, please email it to us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. Please join our Patreon if you want episodes 1 week early and ad-free, plus bonus episodes every month, plus live campfire stories where you can come up and share your ghost story with us and the Phantom community. There's so much fun to be had on Patreon, and it's $5 a month.
Check us out on social media. Watch us on YouTube. If you're looking for sponsors, we include the info in the show notes. And then you can also always go to our website, twogirlsoneghost.com, also in the show notes. And that has a list of all of the discounts that we've been offered from sponsors. Shout out to Jamie Ryan, who edits and produces our podcast, audio and video. Crushing it every time. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to all of you. We love you.
And we will see you on the other side.
Very spooky.